the community is to see how can you become strong and resilient in the face of disasters. How can you cope with them yourself? Unless we do that, there is no hope.
It's expected to take Pakistan many years to fully recover from the 2022 floods. There is still a lot of work to do to get the country back to where it was. And Dr. Lawrie says she has no plans to return to retirement whilst the need is still there.
Will I go back into retirement? Well, I'm already retired. I do exactly what I want to do. I'm not beholden to anybody. I'm not answerable to anybody except to my own communities. So what I'm doing today is extremely rewarding. I have to be constantly in touch to know what's going on, how can I help them better. And so the whole issue is no longer that I have to answer to some powerful entities or the donors or the international NGOs, but that I'm only answerable to my own people. I have to make sure that what they build is strong and resilient, that whenever the disaster strikes, they don't lose all the stuff that they've built so far. And so this whole strategy that I'm working on is to see how we can provide protection. So as long as if I can reach my 3 million, which should be in 6 years, I'm happy. Then I don't have to work anymore. I can then truly retire.
That was Dr. Yasmin Lawrie speaking to me, M. Hashmi, for this episode of Business Daily. Thanks for listening. You can get more from Business Dailies. Just search wherever you get your podcasts.
BBC World Service, and now witness history with me, Anushka Matanda Dawati. Today I'm taking you back to 1969, when one man, equipped with only a paint pot and a guitar, led one of the most successful Celtic language campaigns.
If you take a part in direct action campaigns, you get a lot of reaction for and against. And I've lived with that dilemma all my life. And it's good to come out the other end, as it were, by now. But for many years, I was seen as the bad boy of Welsh politics.
That's Dafydd Iwan. And although he may be a political bad boy, he was far from a rebel without a cause.
When we started campaigning in earnest in the 60s of last century, it was a question of getting the Welsh language recognised officially. I mean, it was strange that half the people of Wales then spoke Welsh, and yet the language was not officially recognised. So we started a campaign to get official status, but it's not so much protecting as enhancing and getting it into the mainstream of Welsh life.
Dafydd was committed to seeing the Welsh language become an official part of day-to-day life, like having it on legal forms and on road signs. And let's just say his methods were pretty hands-on.
Oh, I'm a political animal in the sense that I believe politics belongs to everybody, and everybody should be involved in politics in a local level, in a national level, and internationally. Now, the defacing of road signs happened after years and years of petitioning and rallying and seeing politicians, and everything came to nothing. And we said, in the end, if we are not going to do anything, we are going to deface all English road signs in Wales with green paint. As long as we don't use methods which endangers life, then we are prepared to break the law, and if that leads to prison, then so be it. We are prepared to go to prison. We held a rally. I think it was on January the 1st, 1969. It was held at the birthplace of Bishop William Morgan, who translated the Bible into Welsh, a very significant event in the history of Wales. And we went down to Betws y Coed, and there in front of a television camera, I defaced the police station sign on the police station in Betws y Coed. And that's about the only sign I ever painted. But what happened was that the young people all over Wales, especially students, took up this campaign very seriously. And yes, they took their paint pots and paintbrushes throughout Wales, and for many months signs were being defaced, obliterated with green paint all over Wales.
You just sort of throwing paint on it, or are you painting anything?
No, it's very beautifully painted with the brush. We did it very effectively, and of course it was a very unpopular campaign because everybody seemed to say that they were getting lost, and there was talk of ambulances losing their way to the hospital because we had defaced the road signs. I wrote a song about painting the world green, which I still sing.
Paint your beat on well, paint your beat on well.
I was eventually fined, and I refused to pay the fine. And I knew at some point they would put me in prison. So one day, Black Maria came around my flat in Penarth, when I was living at the time, with my wife and young son, who was only a few months old. And I was taken to Cardiff Prison. Many of the members of the Welsh Police Force have been sympathetic to our cause. So instead of throwing me into the back of the Black Maria, they asked if I would like to sit in the front. I wasn't waving at people, but at least they didn't treat me as a criminal.
Despite being sentenced to 3 months in jail, David's chauffeur ride in the police van made him feel like he had the law on his side.
Until, of course, I got to the prison. And there, everybody is treated the same, whether you're a murderer or a language protester. I was only there for some weeks, and in the end, I decided to accept an offer from magistrates from Wales who put money together to pay the rest of my fine to get me out. Accepting this money from magistrates who were supposed to uphold the law was a very significant event in itself. And I got out of prison, and there was hell to pay because Lord Hailsham, he was responsible for the magistrates, and he called them together and said, don't ever do anything like this again. You are supposed to uphold the law, not pay the fines of lawbreakers.
David's protest generated a lot of controversy and conversation, but his campaigning didn't finish there. He went on to become president of Plaid Cymru in 2003, a political party in Wales that advocates for Welsh independence. However, despite all of this, today he is most famous for his music.
One thing which is true about Wales is that we like to think of ourselves as a country of singers. That is sometimes overdone, but it's true. My songs were part of this, and I've always believed that songs are not protests, but they are very positive expressions of your beliefs and aspirations. And one of my heroes when I started singing was Pete Seeger, and I bought his LP, Pete Seeger at Carnegie Hall, We Shall Overcome.
Someday.
I liked the way he was using songs not only to tell the story of the civil rights movement in America, but also to encourage the audience to take part in the campaign. And I've done a similar thing.
But none of his songs captured the spirit of We Shall Overcome as much as Ama Ohid, which he wrote in 1983 as a tribute to the enduring nature of the Welsh language.
I start the song by referring to the last Roman leader leaving Wales in the year 383. Magnus Maximus, or Maxen as we say in Welsh, left Wales 1600 years ago, I say, and we are still here. You know, all the invaders have gone and we are still here. We are still talking the same language. We are still speaking the same language as we did when Magnus Maximus was around. The song means we can survive against all odds, and we are determined to survive.
In 2022, the Welsh football team asked him if he'd perform the song for their World Cup qualifying match, but he wasn't sure.
The song means we can survive against all odds, and we are determined to survive.
In 2022, the Welsh football team asked him if he'd perform the song for their World Cup qualifying match, but he wasn't sure if the Red Wall, that's Welsh supporters, would join in.
Up to the very moment of starting to sing, I was still apprehensive, what if they just stand there and chant something else? But when the music started and I started singing with it, and the Red Wall joined in with such passion, it was one of the great moments of my life. and my tears were flowing because my songs do mean a lot to me. But with 30,000 fans singing at the top of their voices, it really hit me, and I'll never forget that experience. And I'm so glad that world speakers and non-world speakers, as I said, have taken to the song, and now it's become a kind of secondary anthem for Wales.
Today, David is somewhat of a living legend in Wales. His 2022 performance at the World Cup qualifier put pride in the Welsh language on the world stage, and his road sign painting campaigns contributed to the language getting official status in 2011.
Looking back, in a historic sense, it worked, and it proves that there are some things governments are not willing to accept until they are forced to. And as long as the force does not endanger life, as I said, I think it's been vindicated.
David Irwan was talking to me, Anushka Matanda-Dawati, for this edition of Witness History.
On last week's Wait, Alzo Slade admitted he was one of the 50% of men who think that if called on, they could land a commercial airliner.
Nobody would die, but you would not be able to use the plane again.
I'm Peter Sagal. I am definitely not one of those men who thinks they could beat Olympic marathon medalist Molly Seidel in a race, and will tell her so personally on this week's Wait, Don't Tell Me from NPR. Tomorrow morning at 11 on 93.9 FM and AM 820 WNYC.
You're listening to WNYC. It'll stay clear through the early morning, temperatures in the upper 20s. For the rest of the day, mostly sunny. It's going to be chilly, the high only reaching about 38 in the afternoon, lows in the low 30s tonight. And then for tomorrow, it'll be mostly cloudy. We'll see a high in the afternoon around 45 degrees.
This is WNYC, FM, HD, and AM New York.
Good morning. Roughly 1% of Gaza's population has been killed.